Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hardware Podcast. My name's Jackson Danner, alongside my good friend Omar Borja. Omar, I think we have a typo on our Word doc. It says Week 6 preview. There's no way that's accurate, right? Are we already at Week 6?
I suppose so, Jackson.
Uh,
I suppose so.
It's painful, dude. It flies
Mhm.
by, I swear. But yeah, we're gonna be previewing week 6, giving you some players of the week from last week in week 5, as always. But Omar, how are you feeling as a fan of a 1-3 team? As am I. So I
Uh,
won't go too hard.
it's tough. There's good years and there's bad years, but it's just been a good season so far. What does make me upset is referees. There was a huge ref show last week. I mean, shout out to the referees that ejected Caden Bennett out of Delaware State in the first round in the first quarter for high fiving fans. I mean, the goal if you're refereeing a Sacred Heart Delaware State game is to not be remembered as referees. Well, they didn't do that because now everyone knows about the crew that refereed that game and ejected someone for giving out high fives when the guy that threw football, Lenora Sellers' grandfather, gets nothing. Does not get ejected or suspended. And there was also in a Division 3 game, I think Alma was one of the teams, but there's a Division 3 game where the referees ruled a hook and ladder as an incomplete pass, a failed hook and ladder. So you know, just got to rant about that. Referees, like what are we doing? Like let's make the right calls. But otherwise, I'm doing well.
Yeah, and it was those sorts of penalties. I wish that if you called them, they would be enforced on the following play, right? That's what I think the solution is, because you don't now this one should not have been called, right? But there are like what was the penalty? What was it called as taunting? I assume
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
think
see it.
so. Yeah,
Taunting. Okay. So taunting, there are plays that you want to call it, but it shouldn't affect the play because you're probably taunting because of a successful play, right? And it shouldn't wipe that because that does affect the outcome of the game. So I think the solution is just, if you're going to call it, let's start enforcing it on the following play. I remember, when taunting was first heavily enforced a couple years ago. I remember like Iowa State had this like game changing 80-yard touchdown, and then like it got called back like with that. And then I don't remember if they ended up winning it, but certainly affected the game. So it's like you don't want to wipe away these huge plays and make the referees remembered, right? That's not the goal
yeah.
for the game.
hmm
But I think that's the solution. But in this case, shouldn't have been called at all. It sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find what Division 3 game the hook and ladder was, but that's just egregious for that to be called a fumble because the next play, the offense that got that break, it was Alma versus Hope. Yeah, so Alma. So Hope had recovered a hook and ladder, and then Alma had, the referees ruled in Alma's favor, saying that was an incomplete pass when it was obvious the receiver lateraled it and did a football move, and then Hope or Alma scored on the last play or on the next play in overtime to win. So yeah, come on, referees, what are we doing? That
Yeah,
one's more egregious.
they're just nah. No, but yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. But I mean, I did have a question though. I mean, I guess to start things off, I mean, we don't really talk about kicker races here, but man, how about Kansei Matsuzawa, Tokyo Toe? 16 field goals in 6 games so far, 16 for 16, Jackson. I mean, we don't really talk much about kickers. We don't really talk much about these Lou Groza races. I'm not sure much of the national media does, honestly. But he's got
Yeah, I can't remember for being a college football awards podcast. We definitely haven't talked about it too much. But yeah, 16 for 16 is that's some good stuff, man.
Yeah, and I mean the story too. I feel like if he keeps going, the trajectory is going. I mean, if he kicks at least 20 field goals, 20 to 25 field goals, we've never seen a story like this where a guy literally learns how to kick from YouTube in Japan, goes to a junior college in Ohio, and ends up kicking for a Division 1 team. and has, if you will, Lou Groza moments where he kicks a game-winning field goal against Stanford. His fork field goal performance last week against, three field goal against Air Force, he considered one because his last field goal sealed the game with less than a minute left to make it a 9-score game. So I'm all in on Kansei Matsuzawa. I saw someone say that he deserves the Heisman, which I wouldn't go that far, but
I
he
love the
definitely.
enthusiasm, but probably not. And the next best field goal kicker that's like batting 1,000, so to speak, is Aiden Burr, the Georgia Tech kicker, base 10 for 10, right? So to be 16 for 16 is definitely like that's a pretty significant margin between the next best guy. So
Yeah, exactly.
and no one's kicking more field goals than him either, right? Like no one in the nation has kicked more field goals than than
Yeah.
Matsuzawa. So
Yeah, that's surprising too, just given how great, I guess, Hawaii's offense is designed to be with the run and shoot. I mean, they really showed out this past week. Excuse me. They really showed out this past week with 44 points, but you expect them to finish drives. But I mean, yeah, like I definitely think he's a front runner. Hopefully we didn't jinx him though, because it's definitely a story of the year.
just a real quick funny fact, I'll call it. Which team or which kicker has kicked the second most attempts behind Matsuzawa?
Um, your kicker?
Arizona State's kicker, which is like probably the last school in the nation that you would guess if you remember Kenny Dillingham's heated comments last year. So about the kicking game. So I just think that's funny that they went from never kicking a field goal because they couldn't make one to now they've kicked the second most in the nation. So we'll move on to our players of the week from week 5. I'll start off with I'm going with a rare quarterback in a loss scenario, but you'll understand why in a second. Carlos Del Rio Wilson, the quarterback from Marshall, he had a 2 overtime loss to Louisiana on the road, was 24 for 31 with 258 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. We, obviously really kept them in that game. He's yet to throw for 300 yards in a game, so he's not going to blow you away with the stat lines like that. But no group of 5 quarterback averages more yards per attempt than Carlos, and he ranks 11th overall. He's also number 1 in the nation for Power 4 or group of 5 in passing efficiency overall. So just a name that I have not heard, obviously us talk about before, but really much of the national media talk about. Usually the most highly ranked or most efficient like quarterback in that level is at least like mentioned right a few times. I haven't heard anything about Carlos Del Rio Wilson, so just wanted to bring some light to him and the great stuff he's doing over there at Marshall.
Yeah, I mean, Marshall's got a tough draw this year with everything that happened with Charles Huff packing up and going. Not just him, but a lot of the players on the team to Southern Miss, including Braylon Braxton. But I mean, man, that I'd have to say that Louisiana Marshall game was a great sequel to the Sun Belt Championship game. You don't always see great sequels in cinema. That one was like the straight to DVD sequel that was actually good. The rare straight to DVD sequel, because that one had no hype to it because Louisiana's had a tough year too. But yeah, like Del Rio Wilson, definitely definitely not being talked about, not even in the Sun Belt conversation when it comes to quarterbacks and teams, just because Marshall's had a tough go. I mean, they lost to Missouri State. And I think people just started just not noticing them anymore.
Yeah. No, Carlos, he was not one of the guys that stayed behind from the Charles Huff era. He actually started out at Florida, transferred to Syracuse, and then transferred this season to Marshall. So he had a season-ending injury last year with Syracuse, and he was obviously going to be their backup quarterback. Wasn't in competition for being the starter.
Okay.
So just to give a little background on him. So that's probably why there wasn't really much buzz around the name when he transferred to Marshall, right? He was an injured backup quarterback from Hughes, but he's done great things so far in a run-heavy offense. Like I said, he hasn't thrown for more than 300 yards, despite being the most efficient quarterback in the nation. So But
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's where I thought I heard that name. I mean, I was like, that sounds familiar with Syracuse. That's what the portal does to you, honestly.
yeah, it's like I feel like I've heard of that guy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of those. Omar, who was your offensive player of the week from last week?
So I'm pulling out the Pretzels because in this weekend's past Pretzel Bowl between Albright and Widener in Reading, Pennsylvania, we had Arthur Poindexter catch 15 passes for 231 yards and excuse me, a pair of touchdowns. I mean, just what a game there in a game, that was sponsored by the Shriners, by the Raja Shriner Temple. It's been around for 75 years, but I knew I had to shout out the Pretzel Bowl just because. I mean, who doesn't love a nice pretzel at, for me, 4:24 in the morning? But Arthur Poindexter is a guy that played quarterback in high school, so I'm excited for him. He's not exactly a senior yet, so he's not on the All-Star Games radar. But Poindexter had 15 catches, 231 yards, and it's not even like this game was a shootout. He was just dominant because it was a 35-9 win for Albright over Widener. They won the Pretzel Bowl. I guess you could say the game was for all the pretzels. But Poindexter, I mean, just some information about him. I mean, I love the bios that they have at Albright's football site because the first thing you see is a little bio. Fun fact: he used to play quarterback. Favorite professional athlete: Tyreek Hill. Favorite sports team: Eagles. Favorite movie: Avengers Endgame. We're getting to the point where we're talking about guys who watched Avengers Endgame in high school, or in this case, he's a sophomore. He might have even been a middle schooler. Kind of makes you feel old. And then, but Arthur Poindexter, the pretzels were on the line out there in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he made it happen out there for Division three Albright College. So in a couple of years, hopefully an All-Star game brings it his way. They remember the pretzels and they bring an invite to Arthur Poindexter.
Man, yeah, that is something else. I still can't get over that you're eating pretzels at 4 a.m. over there. But
do it for the show. I'm doing it for the show.
You're a real trooper. My defensive player of the week, I'm going with Joshua Stone King, the defensive end from Furman, in a 31-13 win at Samford. He had 6 total tackles, 2 sacks, and a blocked kick. Again, really wanted to highlight him, not just for his performance last week, but just for the season he's having so far. This is the 3rd game out of 4 that Furman's played this. He's had multiple sacks. Last year, he played as a reserve guy. He only had 1.5 TFLs in 8 games where he got a few snaps. And this is the 3rd year where he's not just 1.5, but like 2 fully credited sacks in 3 of his 4 games. So, Omar, his defensive line coach, Kevin Lewis, might ring a bell. He was the defensive line coach for Army in 2019 before taking the same position at Furman in 2020. So,
yeah, I mean, Furman too. I think with the SoCon, I feel like at the FCS level, we really have kind of stopped talking about the SoCon after the dreadful non-conference coach that they had. But I mean, Stone King is a guy that looks like he should be on All-Star Games radars. And that's a fun note too about him being coached by a former Army defensive line coach. But I mean, SoCon's open. I mean, I'm excited to see who comes out on top because there really isn't a top dog in that team in that league this year.
I forgot to put another 5 run stops, which is included in that 6 total tackles. But run stops, obviously, one of those metrics that are a little bit more valued. So,
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're into the advanced stats, and I'm not as much, so I couldn't tell you the difference between a run stop and a regular tackle. So that's
it's a tackle on a run play. How about that? It's not
okay.
as complicated as it seems, but for defensive linemen, it's a good thing to have. So
Yeah, I figured. Okay, that's good to know. For my player of the week, I'm going with co-honors for the same team. And I'm going to do this twice just because, I mean, I guess just bear with me here with this. So I got Matei Fritz, a defensive lineman for Richmond, and CJ Frazier, defensive back for Richmond. So Richmond's defense had probably had one of the most impressive bailouts I've seen in a game. I'm talking about that one year where Florida scored 42 points and gained only like 113 yards or something against, or no, I think that was Missouri that did that, where Missouri scored 42 points and gained 113 yards on Florida. Maybe not to that level, but it was just as impressive. I mean, Richmond gained 152 yards total on offense. They passed for 35 yards, only completed 4 of the 17 passes, but they still won this game against Howard. because their defense gave them short fields on 2 drives, and that's all they needed. Matei Fritz had 7 tackles as a defensive lineman, 1.5 TFLs, and an interception on a 3rd and long that gave Richmond the ball to Howard 7 for the go-ahead touchdown in the 4th quarter. And then CJ Frazier didn't have as many tackles as Fritz, but he returned an interception 55 yards to set up a 42-yard touchdown pass earlier in the 4th quarter. Fitz, with your notes too that you added, Fitz had 5 sacks and 700 snaps in 2024, 3 sacks so far in 242 snaps. Thank you for that, Jackson.
Yeah, that's a pretty good pace to beat.
Yeah. Fitz looks like a 4'3" guy. He's 6'2", 275. He is a senior too, so with performances like that, I do think he should be on the radar of the American Bowl, the Hula Bowl, if it does happen. I know they recently announced a venue change. And even the Dream Bowl out at AT&T Stadium. But Matei Fritz and CJ Frazier, man, shout out to them for bailing out just a horrid Richmond offense that needs to get their act together, because they play Bucknell and Ralph Rucker IV this next weekend at Christy Mathewson Stadium. That's going to be a shootout. Like, the offense will definitely need to score some points against Bucknell.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and move to my HBCU player of the week. I'm going with Tymetrius Patterson, a linebacker from Benedict College, and a 59-24 win over Clark Atlanta on the red turf. He had 4 TFLs, 3 of them being sacks, 8 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 pass breakups. It's rare you see a guy with multiple of each, right? Like a TFL, a forced fumble, and a pass breakup would be a pretty good game. But to have go 4-2-2 in those categories is really good stuff. So Tymetrius Patterson, linebacker to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Benedict too is a front runner in the SEAC. I mean, it's interesting too, like the amount of depth that's in the SEAC right now. But yeah,
this has been a good year for the SEAC, man. Like there's been a lot of parity.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, hopefully they can get multiple bids into the conference, because unlike the SWAC and MEAC, of course, there is no bowl game for any of the teams. There was a bowl game a couple years ago, the Florida Beach Bowl, that was for the second place teams, I think, but that no longer exists. So hopefully we get a multi-bid SEAC. But Benedict looks really good too. And I mean, Clark Atlanta had that statement went on national TV that most people are aware of. So,
and Clark Atlanta is not even in the top half of the standings for the conference, right? And they don't look like a bad team, and they've had the most publicized win for the SEAC all year. But Kentucky State has had. We've talked about Kentucky State before, and who's 3-1 in conference play, and then there's 3 other schools in Benedict, Edward Waters in Jacksonville, and Albany State that are still undefeated in conference play. So.
Yeah, even 0-5 Miles looks good last week, which I think that's a perfect segue to my HBCU players of the week, where 0-4 Miles fought back from a 17-0 deficit to almost beat Morgan State. But then my co-honorees for HBCU player of the week stepped in, Josiah Blake and Jaden Carter. I'm not looking at the stat lines, but Josiah Blake blocked Miles' game-winning field goal. Blake, the 6'4", 195-pound defensive back, blocked Miles' go-ahead field goal with 77 seconds left, and Jaden Carter, his defensive backfield mate, returned it 94 yards for a score with those 77 seconds left. I mean, again, it's non-conference play. Of course, every game matters, but it's non-conference play for MEAC and SWAC schools. The prize, the name of the prize, of course, is the Celebration Bowl. But, man, talk about an electric finish, honestly. A blocked field goal. I'm calling it the block at the Brick House, with it being at Lucas Oil Stadium. So, sell the T-shirts if you want, Morgan State. But the block at the Brick House with Jaden Carter, Josiah Blake, I mean, those 2 guys, and for good measure, they combined for 7 tackles, the 2 of them. So what a finish. I mean, but again, Miles, too, on your point with the SEAC, even an 0-5 team in the SEAC is going neck and neck with a team in, the MEAC, a Division I team. And even same thing with Morehouse. Morehouse, the perennial, I wouldn't say doormat, but perennial, also ran in the conference, was giving Howard a hard time in the first half. So, but my HBCU players of the week, Josiah Blake, Jaden Carter. I mean, you can't beat the dramatics of a late game blocked field goal and blocked field goal return for a touchdown.
And with Josiah Blake, I just looked it up. We talk all the time about the best stats for defensive backs or no stats, right? He had 36 coverage snaps, 0 targets on that. That's the most complimentary stat of all to Josiah Blake.
Yeah. Is that Pro Football Focus?
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Was that from their Division One game, or is that just in general?
That's the Miles College game.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't know the scope of PFF's coverage. So I mean, I might have to invest in a PFF subscription. That's actually
It's
really cool.
it's worth it, dude. But all year, 127 coverage snaps and only 8 targets. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is.
Omar, just real quick before we get into our games of the week, I stumbled upon this and it surprised me a little bit. Who is the number 1 scoring offense in the FCS? Just
I know the
off
answer.
rip, who would you say off the top of your head?
So off the top of my head, I would say. I'm trying to think of the top 4. I would say either Tarleton or North Dakota State. North Dakota State's been really good this year.
Close. Tarleton, I think, is 2nd or 3rd. Tennessee Tech, number 1 on scoring offense.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, we've talked about Tennessee Tech a little bit before, but I did not realize that their offense was that caliber. So just wanted to bring that out there. I was like, man, when I saw that, I was like, I do not, of all the FCS stuff I read and consume, have not heard much talk about Tennessee Tech this year. Aside from us a few weeks ago in one of our games of the week to watch. So just wanted to bring that out there. But Omar, I'll go ahead and go with my first game of the week to watch. I'm stealing an easy one in Jackson State at Alabama A&M. Jackson State making the 5-hour bus ride to Huntsville for the road game. They're coming off of scoring 31 unanswered points to overcome what was just a 1-score deficit in the second quarter. Alabama A&M lost to Bethune-Cookman last week. I can't quite figure out that Bethune-Cookman team. I think we'll know how bad that loss is based on how competitive they are with Alabama State on Saturday. That's going to be another interesting game to keep an eye on. But Alabama State looking really good this year. A name to watch out for if you're watching that game, Quincy Ivory. Florida fans like me, he's a transfer, so if that name sounds familiar, that's why. But he has 8 tackles for losses on the year for Jackson State. No one else even has half that on the JSU roster. So name to watch out for.
Yeah, and that one too, of course, is the neutral site game. That one's going to be the Gulf Coast Challenge.
Oh, I did not realize that. Oh, yeah. Never mind. So this is a neutral
site
game. Well, please don't listen to me.
Yeah, it's a. Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize that you put that it was a. Okay, that you put it wasn't, but yeah, it's a neutral site game. It's HBCU Classic in Mobile, Lad People Stadium, longtime home of the Senior Bowl and South Alabama football. But yeah, the SWAC East looks really, really intriguing, and I think the national media is taking notice of it because Jackson State, Alabama State was just selected for ESPNU for October 11th, so there could be a look ahead factor for this Alabama A&M game. There definitely could be a look ahead factor for Jackson State, and like you said, Jackson State struggled against Southern last week early on. They did take care of business, but I mean, starting slow won't help them, and it definitely won't help them against Alabama State coming up. So this one is intriguing. I mean, I'm excited. I definitely think that there might be a look ahead factor with Alabama A&M here, or Jackson State looking at Alabama State. So definitely looking forward to that one. I mean, I always love my HBCU Classics and neutral site games. So my first game of the week, staying at the FCS level, we got Friday night, 7 p.m., ESPNU. You know what conference is playing. Columbia and Princeton will be playing on ESPNU for the first Ivy League Friday night game of the year. And you'll see 2 talented defenses led by 2 talented linebackers, one on each side. We got Columbia for the first time since 1962. You can say this, you're defending Ivy League champions, co-champions, of course. But Columbia struggled at first in the first week against Lafayette, losing 38-14. Last week, the defense was amazing. They held Georgetown to, I think, 63 passing yards and intercepted 3 passes. Linebacker Jack Smichowski had 2 interceptions at linebacker for Columbia in their Georgetown win last week. And that's something you always know about Columbia. ever since Al Bagnoli was coaching under this new head coaching regime. Not new because I think they've been around since 2023. But Columbia is going to play tough defense. They're going to run the ball. I mean, they're not overly flashy, but they're going to play mistake-free football. Call them the Minnesota of the Big Ten, or the Minnesota of the Ivy League, if you will. On the other side, Princeton also has a pretty good defense. Like I said, pretty good defenders. The defense has kind of struggled giving up points against San Diego and Lafayette. But Marco Scarano is one heck of a linebacker. He is, I think, a legitimate NFL prospect. He made a couple of all Ivy League teams last year. I think third and fourth team from the league and from a couple publications. But he had 18 tackles and 3 pass breakups and a forced fumble against San Diego to open the season. He's a bit small for a linebacker, 6 foot, 205 pounds, but this is the guy that legitimately could play special teams, could find a niche on special teams because he is just that good at getting in the mix, causing chaos too, as you can see with the forced fumbles and everything. And he's pretty solid in pass coverage too, so maybe he builds himself up to being sort of a Dayon Buchanan type player. But Friday night, 7 p.m. ESPNU, Ivy League Friday night is back, and I'm super excited for it.
I would be flipping back and forth between that and the USF game, but I'm actually going to a concert with Izzy, so I'm going to have to think out for the score app and set some alerts up so we can keep tabs on that. I think Lila actually has a Princeton onesie. She might have to break that out.
Yeah, I got a DVR because we're going to a church event for couples, a couples church event that happens every month, and it just so happens it's on the first Friday of each month. So I'm gonna DVR it, watch it when I get back.
There you go.
But yeah, it should be fun.
My next game of the week to watch, I'm doing Texas Tech at Houston. I wish as a Texas Tech alum, I would not be able to say that this is competitive, but in all honesty, I think Houston head coach Willie Fritz might be Kurt Signetti 2.0 happening right before our eyes. I mean, we just don't know it yet. In his second season there, he's starting 4-0 after going 4-8 last year. Texas Tech's inconsistency in 2024 just gives me PTSD and has me wondering if this is a track game. You're playing on the road at night. Houston's defense actually is tied for 10th most takeaways in the nation. But if Tech can keep the ball away, I think they're too talented to lose, especially with Baron Morton is supposed to be good to go after a neck injury that was pretty scary against Utah. Had the bye week to recover last week. And then it should be go. Although our backup quarterback just looked fantastic. I think he was like 10 for 13. It really had some fantastic throws, well beyond the line of scrimmage. It's not like they were just thinking and dunking it. So Texas Tech at Houston, we'll see. I hope for my sake, selfishly, that the game's not competitive, but we'll find out. Willie Fritz has done a very, very good job with that Cougar team so far.
Yeah, so with Texas Tech Houston, that's kind of a game where I think it's if you're just a general fan of the Big 12, your Big 12 leadership, like I feel like you don't know what you'd want the outcome of that game to be, because you'd want your conference to be a 2-bid team. But looking at the path ahead for Texas Tech and Houston, I feel like the conference benefits more from Houston running the table, having one loss, than and Texas Tech maybe dropping 1 or 2 of these games, maybe because they have the tougher road. But this is the must-win game, because I don't think with the remaining schedule ahead for Houston, I don't really think they have much of a chance at an at-large bid for the playoff. Or not much, but it's not strong. But Texas Tech too, like they have an absolute gauntlet going ahead. But this is interesting though, because with us talking about Big 12 playoff contenders, I don't think either of us had Houston in mind, or even at this point.
No, yeah, it was Houston was not a consideration for sure.
Like Willie Fritz is announced like one of the best coaches in the country, and this is showing it this year. So should be interesting to see the Big 12. I mean, you can't predict the Big 12, and it's going to be crazy already. You know, I don't think it's going to be as bad as not as bad, but as interesting as last year was with so many conference championship candidates. But I mean, yeah, like there is a lot of football to be played, and I don't even know. Like, I just hope the Big 12 doesn't cannibalize itself. Like in other years.
No, same here. That's my concern too. For Tech, you have it's really. I think this is a must-win game too, right? Because if you want an at-large bid in the playoff in the event you don't end up winning your conference, I think you might need it because you still have to go at Arizona State. You still have BYU at home, albeit, but BYU has looked really good. And then you have UCF at home towards the end of the year. UCF, I think if they played right now, I think they would it'd be a comfortable win. But they play in mid-November, so there's still a lot of time left in the year where BYU could potentially improve. So,
Yeah, exactly. So,
or UCF, I'm sorry, the UCF could potentially improve.
yeah, I mean, so there's so much football to be played. There's so many contenders. I mean, I'm already kind of excited to see what the Big 12 has, or excuse me. But going on to my next game of the week, I'm staying in the Ivy League with an Ivy League Patriot League crossover. If you like running backs, this game's a game for you because Luke Yoder, I think he's a Walter Payton candidate. To be honest with you, he's got 586 yards in 5 games and 7 yards per carry. He's got 2 straight games with over 173 rushing yards for the Lehigh Mountain Hawks. And then on the other side, you got Yale, Joshua Pitzenberger, who I think we did talk about in our Shrine Bowl 1000 episode, but he was on the Shrine Bowl 1000. He has 269 yards and 5 touchdowns in his first 2 games for Yale. And this is so huge because Lehigh is 5-0. I have them ranked, I think, at number 10. I've them at number 10 in my ballot for the FCS poll. And they're a candidate for a seed. In games like this, where you play a Yale team that looks like an Ivy League contender, these are games where if you run the table, people can point to this and say this team is worthy of a seed, of being a top 8 seed in the FCS playoffs. And being a seed is important because there's 24 teams. Just for those of you unfamiliar with the bracket, there's 24 teams, and then the 8 seeds get a first round bye, and they get hosting duties at in the second round of the playoffs, so round of 16. So getting a seed is huge. Is a huge advantage of losing a game in the playoffs and being able to host. So this is a huge game for Lehigh, and also too, you might forget that this is the Ivy League's first year where the champion gets to play in the FCS playoffs. So, I mean, if a game like this, games like Lehigh Yale, these are important for the league to possibly get 2 teams into the playoffs too. If Yale ends up beating Lehigh and being their only loss, but man, Lehigh Yale. I mean, if you ask me, I think game day should have been to Lehigh Yale instead of Vanderbilt, Alabama. But that's just me because this one's
Not the strongest week. Not the strongest week for that, for sure.
yeah, this one's huge.
No, it is a big game. I will go with my last game of the week to watch. I'm going with the Army at UAB. Now, this would not have been a game in consideration for me before the season, but Army's lone win is coming against a Power 4 team. UAB's defense is allowing no less than 28 points a game. Just a very strange situation. But just to make it weirder, the city of Birmingham is giving away how many tickets is it, Omar? Like a lot of tickets to local residents. Yep. Maybe we get a home field advantage for once with UAB. Not sure. We'll see. UAB has not played as a great football team this year, but it does get lost the fact that they are 4th in the nation in passing yards per game with Jalen Kitna. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a screenshot right there. I mean, shout out Emily Cundiff on Twitter, local news reporter in Birmingham. And yeah, they're spending $200,000 on UAB football tickets this season.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Leads me to believe that ESPNU is going to black out the game if UAB doesn't sell it out, which Army's not doing their part. Army's not doing their part to help sell out the game with how they've been playing this year. But I mean, there are reasons to be excited about UAB. I mean, the offense is explosive, but the defense, man, that defense is something else because the stat that I always pull out is Akron. Akron has scored 31 points in 4 games against FBS competition. 28 of those came against UAB. So the defense has a lot of things to figure out, but Jalen Kitna, man, I feel like he's putting up stats, but I feel like there's Sam Howell 2023 stats where the team's down a lot and there's a lot of volume to those stats. But it should be a fun game, honestly. I think it should be closer than last year, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that Army wins. I mean, as a homer, but man, yeah, UAB needs that one. And I've talked to some UAB fans that want Dilfer to lose so they can just speed up the process and get a new coach. So we'll see, though.
Omar, what is your last game of the week before we hop off?
So I got Air Force versus Navy. Air Force at Navy. CBS noon. Good friend Rich Waltz calling that one. And man, again, another year that Navy comes into this game against Air Force undefeated, looking to crack the top 25, honestly, which I think they might be able to. Maybe, maybe not if they beat Air Force. But I mean, talk about a great quarterback matchup. I mean, Navy's defense has looked solid the past couple weeks, but I mean, they're gonna have their hands full with Liam Zarka. I'm really trying to get this movement going with his nickname for Liam Zarka, call him Flight Suit Josh Allen. Because he has just looked so good the past couple weeks. The past couple weeks, he's had over 200 passing yards, the first Air Force quarterback to do that since 2015 when Carson Roberts did it. He went 13 of 18 for 246 yards against Boise State, most of it from coming from behind, and then he went 10 for 12 for 278 yards against Hawaii, which is just mind-blowing. And also with that Hawaii game, he also had 139 rushing yards for an Air Force record in yards of total offense of 417. No Air Force quarterback has had 417 yards of offense before. So really, really great things that Liam Zarka, Flight Suit Josh Allen, is doing this year. So Navy's going to have their hands full. And, of course, Blake Horvath, this could be a huge game for him in his Heisman race, of course, because, in my opinion, I'm not really buying it that Dante Moore is a Heisman front runner. I can't really say that he's had much of a Heisman moment, I guess, with the Oregon game or with the Penn State game. Like, yeah, they won the whiteout game, and yeah, Dante Moore was impressive with 3 touchdowns, but Oregon almost blew a 14-point lead at the same time. I don't think.
No, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm curious to get your opinion on: if Air Force wins, does that help Hawaii? Does that kind of help validate that win?
I mean, yeah, that's a good win, but it's like at the same time, it's like Hawaii is also not really in the Mountain West Conference race, I feel like, or the playoff race. So I mean, it is a good win, and I think the Air Force win stands on its own just because of how explosive they are on offense. They're a hard offense to stop. It's just a defense that gives issues for Air Force. But I mean, I think it's a good win in general. I mean, just because of how they are on offense, but. Yeah, like for Navy, like this is Blake Horvath's chance to have a Heisman moment, maybe 3-4 touchdowns and a blowout win, an exciting touchdown or something. But yeah, I'm just excited for this as always. I'm excited for the Commander Chiefs Trophy games, and especially now that they're on CBS. But this one should be more exciting than last year's games for sure. Just a great quarterback matchup. Really excited.
Definitely should be.
Well, Omar, that's it for me. Anything else before we hop off?
No, I just hope everyone enjoys this weekend of college football, and we're getting close to weekday Conference USA or weekday USA.
Yes, only a couple more weeks.
So actually, we get our first taste of it on Friday, on Friday with I think I think it's Thursday. We get our first taste today with New Mexico State Sam Houston playing, and then tomorrow we get Delaware versus Western Kentucky, which is a sneaky good game, very sneaky good game. But I just hope everyone enjoys their weekend.
No, same here. It's going to be another great week. Whenever the slate is not top heavy like it isn't this week, that's usually when the best games happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there usually is. There usually are some sleepers that rise to the top. So I'm excited for it. But thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. And Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, and be gracious to you. And until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul in the Burger Popper.